At least two need to be on the other side. There's like 6 on our side. Someone 50.
That's what we did, but it would be, so we didn't even go like those roads or anything.
Okay, at this time, we're going to call the regular city council meeting to order. All rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Certainly. Mayor King.
Here.
Councilman Osborne.
Here.
Councilwoman Niner. Here. Councilwoman Newberry.
Here.
Councilwoman Emo.
Here.
Quorum being present. If everybody's had an opportunity to go through the agenda, are there any objections to the agenda as presented?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't see any of what Mr. White had testified to when he was testifying on the last time. Is there a reason for that?
You need to state your name and address, please.
Oh, apologies. Marla Argent, 1908 Cypress Way, Pleasant Hill.
Okay. Are those a legal record or city council?
What?
The minutes from
That would be part of the consent agenda, so you're just doing it, regular agenda right now, so that would come into the second part.
Right, apologies, sitting down.
Sorry. You're fine. Are there any objections from council for the agenda? Hearing no objections, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to the consent agenda as presented? Are they in the transcripts from that, is that it?
The transcripts are not within the
Right,
consent agenda, or not within the minutes. No.
right. Is that because they're a legal proceeding or?
It was just not documented as a transcript, as a full transcript.
All right. Can we get those added at a later date, please? And put on the website? Thank you. Do I have any objections from council on the consent agenda? With the exception being, we'll have them updated on the website to have the testimony from the public hearing. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Hey, Mayor, I would not recommend approving these minutes from the
Okay.
last meeting unless you want it to do in concept only.
That's fine. We don't have to do that. Will you have them on the next one then? Thank you. This time we will open up the meeting to public comment. If you would like to address council, please step up to the podium, state your name and address. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I just remind everybody you may not get an answer here tonight, but somebody will try to get you an answer as soon as possible. When you step up, please state your name and address.
Hey, Marla.
Thank you so much. Marla Argent, 1908 Cypress Way, Pleasant Hill, Missouri. And this is in response to, I think it was Mayor King talking to Mr. White on the last meeting, had said that the building that you guys were speaking of, that a fireman would go inside if they caught it on fire, thinking someone was in there.
said that is a possibility, yes.
Okay. Have you been over there?
Yes, I have seen the structure.
Okay, yeah, because I've had some fireman training as well as citizens emergency response training as well as EMT training, and not one person I have been around would ever consider even thinking that that would be an occupied building.
And most of the time, we will do a search to prove that it's not, because we don't want to have someone in there that we didn't say. They get squatters in buildings all the time, and I can tell you in 30 years, I've been around buildings worse than that we've had to search.
All right, just wanted to make that point. I just
Yep.
never have. Just taking this.
You can wait right there on that.
Anyone else like to make a public comment? Please step up, state your name and your address.
John Self, 205 South Campbell. I know that's what accused a couple of you when the privately held fireworks show was happening, and I wanted to state my experience and also my position on that. I have lived in my home for 10 years, and in that time, I have never once had a complaint about fireworks. That's every fair, that's every private show, et cetera, et cetera. The night that we had that, my DVD player kept skipping because the house was shaking from the seismic activity, and I can't think of a better word for it. And that's excessive. I had my basement lights on because I was doing laundry. I went downstairs, those were incandescent bulbs. Granted, they needed to be replaced, but it broke the filaments in 3 of the remaining incandescent bulbs in my house. That's how bad the vibration was. For comparison, I live a half mile from the fairgrounds. I also live about a half mile from where the city fireworks display was. Granted, there was a lot more competing noise that night, but I never once heard it or felt it. That being said, I do not want to put a stop to the private fireworks display. I think that that is a huge benefit for our city. I'm frustrated by the fact that it was not on the city calendar, even though we just had a discussion about that in the last city council meeting. So the vets that we talked about being concerned about got no warning, and a large number of the public weren't informed of it if they weren't on whatever place they hear about such things. If the city's going to host something like that, I think it would be wise to advertise it and otherwise treat it with a certain amount of respect. Next year, I would expect the focus to be on display and less on raw power. And I understand the city is in a position where you can't really regulate that. But I wanted to be clear after I talked to a couple of you, at this point, I don't want it to stop. I don't want people to be denied that, but I also don't want what happened to continue. Because I've got homes even closer to that property, and if that continues, I will continue to suffer damage. I can live with a skipping DVD player, but broken windows, things like that, that's a little out of hand. So I just wanted to be clear about that, and also let the city know that I do appreciate that event for the citizens of Pleasant Hill, and I do not want that to stop. So, thank you.
Hey, John, just so you know, that was a couple of things. That was a private event, not a city event.
Right.
And I have already, because you were not the only complaint I got 3 from this part of town and 2 on the other side of 7 Highway. That noise. So I have asked city staff to at least have a discussion with them as to what change there was and why it was. I don't know if it was just heat and no move, like how hot it was, if there was no movement, or I don't know. We've had, how many years have they done that? 3rd year. And, we haven't had that problem. So we're going to see what changed.
Yeah.
It may just been they used somebody different as their commercial person, but yes, you were not the only one, and I've already asked city staff to talk to them.
It was more felt than heard.
Right.
Where I was. I had another thought about the
Sorry.
I'll take it again. Sorry, Marla Largent, 1908 Cypress Way, Pleasant Hill, Missouri. As far as those, did they say there was 30 years they've been here? Because it's not, Hearn has not been here, it's been
3.
Wald.
3.
Okay, so Wald was replaced by Hearn?
No, Hearn is the group that puts it on for their clients.
Okay, well, it was Wald for years, that's
Right. I don't know if they use Wald or they use one of the couple others. I know like the mayor of Lake Winnebago has his own company. There's several in the area, so.
Okay.
I don't know who they use.
I was just gonna reiterate that I would like to see it announced at the city level so people know it's coming.
No, I agree with that. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Shannon Wade. I live at 301 Lamont Street. I have concerns about the sidewalk that's on Broadway Street that's crumbling. We were told that it would be replaced at the end of the spring or first of the summer, and we haven't heard anything. It's really a danger because we've got so much traffic coming down, up and down Broadway Street, that nobody can walk up and down the sidewalk because it's all crumbling, and we're always afraid that somebody's going to fall. And another concern I have is the bridge that connects Broadway and Pine Street. It's cracking in certain places, and the concrete pillar that's at the bottom is cracked, and it's almost down inside the creek. And there's also some cracking in the concrete on the sides. So I was wondering if somebody could take a look at that.
We're at specifically on Broadway, not the bridge, but the sidewalk, same area.
It's on Broadway, right in front of 601 Broadway Street.
601.
Uh-huh.
Yep. We will get somebody to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
It's from west of Independence for 2 blocks.
If you'd like to make public comment, just go ahead and step up. All right.
I was also wondering, can we get an update on where the town hall meeting about the water situation is? Because we were promised that 2 meetings ago, we've not heard a word about it.
Nope, we are still getting some information, and I hope to have something out soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next item is a public hearing. Public hearing is for the inclusion of lots 2 and 3 of block 84 in Miller's first edition of the Historic Preservation Overlay District. Need a motion to open a public hearing. I'll make a motion to open a public hearing.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to open a public hearing. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Osborne?
Yes.
Councilwoman Niner?
Yes.
Councilman Newberry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Eno?
Yes.
All right, we're in a public hearing.
I like this, public hearings or something like that.
Thank you, Mayor. Shelby Tupel, City. Can you guys hear that? There we go. Shelby Tupel, City Administrator, presenting on behalf of the city. Tonight we have a public hearing for consideration of inclusion of lots 2 and 3 of Block 84 in Miller's first addition to the Historic Preservation Overlay District. One of the things that I will note is that it was properly noticed within the Times or Tribune and Times. Also has had a public hearing before the Historic Preservation Commission for consideration of whether it can be a historic property. It's already had the public hearing from the council regarding whether it could be a historic property. Then on top of that, last week it was held or heard before the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the placement of the actual zoning overlay. So tonight what the council is considering is that placement of the zoning overlay that finally completes the process to include this in the Historic Preservation Overlay District. I went ahead and included this, that the property itself has been around Pleasant Hill for a very long time, and what the lots in their current configuration were included on the 1912 plat. The current aerial of this area is going to be located here, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, this being Cedar Street and then Boardman Street as well. In a minute, I'll go over where the existing historic preservation boundaries are, but I do want to note that Lot 1 is already included in the Historic Preservation Overlay District. 2, 3, and 4 are not. 2 and 3 are also zoned commercial properties, which is what that area, our zoning overlay for this Historic Preservation District is all commercial, which is why lots 2 and 3 were recommended at this time. So as you can see, this is our current local historic district boundaries. Really looking at this commercial district, this is that lot 1 that I just mentioned. 2 and 3 sit right outside of the district. Everything else around it is also zoned either commercial or manufacturing. To the north here is all residential, including lot 4 is zoned residential. I just went ahead and then matched the overlay on top of it, just so you have a little bit of an awareness of where those boundaries were. Now, the thing that is unique about this property is that the current conditions are, it is currently a vacant lot. Typically what you're going to see within a historic preservation boundary is going to be an actual structure or something that has a historic significance. One of the reasons that this was included, though, was that the historic preservation regulations do allow for the ability for gateways and kind of that cohesion within the district. And as it does sit kind of on a northern, almost northwest boundary of the historic preservation districts and on an intersection, they felt it was necessary to include it in this district. This does come, typically a historic preservation overlay doesn't change any of the actual zoning regulations. It's just going to be an overlay that really kind of provides for that architectural review, that anything that would be built upon that area or modified would have to go before the Historic Preservation Commission. However, since it is zoned C2 for lots 2 and 3, there are changes whether you are located just in a C2 zoning or whether you're in the C2 zoning with a historic preservation overlay. No changes to the minimum lot areas or lot widths, but it does change the setbacks. Setbacks for C2 are 30 foot for the front, 25 feet or 20% of the depth of the lot for rear, 10 feet for side. Really, it almost eliminates any of the setbacks that would be located within the C2 historic preservation overlay. And part of the reason is in this particular area, we have places with common walls, and so zero lot lines are actually consistent with what we would see in this area. So as I mentioned, the Historic Preservation Commission recommended approval for lots 2 and 3 to be included in the historic district. Council also recommended approval for lots 2 and 3 to be in the Historic Preservation Overlay District. Lot 4 was in the original application, but it wasn't recommended, and the applicant agreed due to the fact that it's zoned residential. So the application just for the zoning overlay is for lots 2 and 3, and Planning and Zoning recommended approval for that to be included in the Historic Preservation Overlay District. And I have nothing further.
All right. Does the applicant like to make a statement?
Carla Murray, 300 North Campbell Street. I'm sorry. Thank you. Carla Murray, 300 North Campbell Street, Pleasant Hill. No, this is the last public hearing. I think that y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but other than that, I think you all already know the what's happening here, what we're asking for. Do you have any questions for me? I think Shelby explained it very well. Thank you, Shelby.
All right, at this time, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this matter, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, please. All right. If nothing else, then I need a motion and a second to come out of public hearing.
I'll make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to come out of public hearing. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Osborne?
Yes.
Councilwoman Niner?
Yes.
Councilwoman Newberry?
Yes.
Councilman Eno?
Yes.
All right, next item is bill number 24-19, an ordinance approving the addition of a historic preservation district zoning overlay to lots 2 and 3 of block 84 of Miller's First Edition. Does anyone have any questions for staff or anything on this? If not, I need a motion and a second for bill number 24-19.
I'll make a motion for bill number 2419, an ordinance approving the addition of the historic preservation district zoning overlay lots 2 and 3 in block 84 of Miller's First Edition.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve bill number 24-19, ordinance approving the addition of historic preservation district zoning overlay to lots 2 and 3 of block 84 of Miller's First Edition. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Osborne?
Yes.
Councilwoman Niner?
Yes.
Councilwoman Newberry?
Yes.
Councilman Eno?
Yes.
All right, that is passed. All right, the next item is the findings of facts, conclusions of laws, and dangerous building order for 126 Patterson Street. I'm going to read the findings. The hearing was held on June 24, 2024 at Pleasant Hill City Hall pursuant to section 52215 of the City Code of the City of Pleasant Hill, Missouri, concerning the property commonly known as 126 Patterson Street, Pleasant Hill, Missouri 64080. I, John King, am the mayor of Pleasant Hill and the hearing officer in this case. I held a public hearing to determine whether the property located at 126 Patterson Street, Pleasant Hill, Missouri constitutes clear and present danger to the general health and safety of the city and its inhabitants as defined in sections 52-215 of the City Code. I held the hearing at 6:00 p.m. on June 24, 2024 at Pleasant Hill City Hall, 203 Paul Street, Pleasant Hill, Missouri. I and the City Council of Pleasant Hill make the following findings of fact, conclusions of laws, and order. Findings of fact is a notice of public hearing was mailed to the owner of and party interested in the above stated property on May 30th, 2024. The building or structure at 126 Patterson Street has these conditions as listed in the various letters sent to the property owner. The building has deteriorating walls and collapsing roof. The building has multiple broken windows allowing moisture, mold, and animals to be present. The front porch is sunken at the north end of the structure. The deteriorated appearance of the building has negatively impacted surrounding property values. To date, no corrections to the conditions listed in paragraph 2 above have been completed. Conclusions of law. The notice of public hearing was properly given to owners of and parties interested in 126 Patterson Street, Pleasant Hill, Missouri. The City of Pleasant Hill properly followed procedures under sections 52215 to 52226 of the City Code of Pleasant Hill, Missouri, affording the owners interest in parties due process of law. The conditions listed in paragraph 2 above constitute clear and present danger to the general health and safety of the city and its inhabitants as defined in section 52215 of the City Code. Specifically, the property at the above stated address is in violation of the following provisions. 52-215, following conditions with respect to any building or structure have been determined to be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the city, and therefore constitutes a dangerous building being a nuisance. It defines those as those which, exclusive of the foundation, show 33% or more of damage or deterioration of the supporting member or members, or 50% of damage or deterioration of non-supporting enclosures or outside walls or coverings. Those which have improperly distributed loads upon the floors, roofs, or other horizontal structural members, or in which the same are overloaded, or which have insufficient strength or deflections to be reasonably safe for the purpose used or intended to be used. Those that have been damaged by fire, wind, or other causes so as to become dangerous to life, safety, or the general health and the welfare of the occupants or the people of the city. Those that are so dilapidated, decayed, unsafe, unsanitary, or so utterly fail to provide the amenities essential to decent living that are unfit for human habitation or likely to cause sickness, disease, or injuries to those occupying such a building. Those that have parts or components thereof that are attached in such a way that may fall or injure members of the public or property. Those that, because of their condition, are unsafe, unsanitary, or dangerous to the health, safety, or general welfare of the people of the city. Wherefore, I order that the owner of the property at the above stated address, in accordance with section 52215 to 52-226, is hereby ordered to demolish said property as quickly as possible, but no later than, and will establish days later, if we decide to do this, from the issuance of the order. If the owner of the said property fails to comply with this order to demolish said dangerous buildings, the city may enter the property and abate the dangerous building nuisance on the property via demolition of the property in accordance with sections 52-227 to 52-228 of the city code. That to preserve the safety and welfare of those involved, all utilities shall be disconnected, including but not limited to water service, electrical service, sewer service, prior to any demolition, whether by property owner or the city. These findings of facts, conclusions of law, and order shall be immediately delivered or mailed to each party to the hearing by certified mail. Return receipt requested. These findings of facts, conclusions of laws, and orders shall be posted in a conspicuous place in the city hall for a period of 30 days from the date of issuance. So I have a couple of questions for council before we proceed. Do you agree with the findings that this building is dangerous?
Yes, I do, yes.
Yes.
Do you guys feel that the building needs to be demolished?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
So, the last question I have for you all is there a number of days that you would like to give the owner to demolish it? It can be no less than 30 days, but we can make it for as many days as we wish.
Can we ask Mike some questions?
We will get to that.
Okay.
If you guys want to hold off on that one, we'll do that. We can do that a number of days.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. White, I know you're present. I saw you come in. Is there anything, so council has determined that this property is dangerous and needs to be demolished. Give you an opportunity to speak to the council if you wish, sir.
Well, I spoke the last time, and I thought I was pretty clear on that I don't feel like that you guys have the right to just tear it down with your rules and regulations over my constitutional rights as a landowner, a private property owner. And it's also a big burden to try to come up with that kind of cash to tear that thing down. And I'm not willing to sign my name on a dotted line and borrow the money to do it. So I don't know what to do.
So, Mr. White, I'm going to stand up so I'm not I'm gonna stand up so I'm not talking to the podium. You know, I understand, being a history buff and with the Constitution, I am very aware of the 5th and the 14th Amendment, which you speak. And, you know, what that really says is, we can't take it for public use. We don't want to take your property anyway. We just want to abate a dangerous building, okay? With that said, I'm sure you have heard that no man is an island, okay? And no property exists in isolation. All property attaches to neighbors. And that's really what this comes down to is, this is a danger to the public the way the building is. You said yourself it's not fit to live in, correct?
That's true.
Okay. Before we move on further, I'm going to let some other people talk, okay? I know there were some people from the public that had said that they might be able to help you out with that, getting it demolished, and I hope that this public can help you. I know that you don't have the means to do it. Go ahead, sir.
I just don't think that, you know, what's really wrong with that house is you've got a little main part of the house which is very small, and then they've added on to it since 1910, probably about 6 different times. And when they added on to it, they just didn't do a very good job. So that's the part where the roof is starting to cave in the back. And all that was a cover over a concrete patio coming out the back. And I just don't know what to do with it. If I could snap my fingers, I'd do that, but I can't. And I'm not in good enough health, and it's too late for me to start taking out them kind of loans to tear that down.
Do you still have stuff in it, or is it empty?
Nothing I care to keep.
Okay. Do you council have questions for Mr. White?
My only question is you don't have any plans to make the necessary repairs?
That depends on what you want done.
Well, to make it livable.
Oh, livable? No.
Okay.
I've taken all the utilities out, and the 6th of August, they're supposed to take the power out of it. That's already set up with the city through, used to be Porter Electric. When that's done, there will be no utilities at all going to the building. Now, 30 years ago, I could probably take and tear them add-ons off and make a shed out of it. But it's too late for me doing that kind of work now. So, I don't know what to do with it.
I don't have any questions.
You already answered the ones I had.
Do you guys have any questions? Okay. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak? We'll get the podium back up. Just step up. Please state your name and address.
Mr. White, my name is Carla Murray, and I'm at 300 North Campbell Street. And I just kind of, I know it's address council, but would you allow the community to come help you tear that down if we could get enough people together versus the city doing it and charging you? Would you be open for that?
Well, that's a big expense.
Well, the labor, I'm just, if it's something that we might be able to help you out as a community, and I know that a lot of people would love to help you out. The only thing I would ask is if that is a possibility and your electric is moving on August 6th, is there any way we could get 45 to 60 days to do this so that we can get the community together? And if we can't, then the city does what they need to do. If you're willing to work with the community and let us come to help you, would you be willing to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Ms. Sutton.
It's my understanding that the city got a whole bunch of money to revitalize the animal shelter down there. I don't know the legalities of this, but surely somebody from the city might have an accident with a bobcat while they're down there, and you're doing all that construction anyway, and maybe help somebody out. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Anyone else? Okay, so, go ahead.
Kathy Gilbert, 608 North Taylor, 24-year realtor. How about we sell it, make you some money, and have an investor come in and revitalize that house?
Well, I don't think you could do anything like that because it's in a flood zone. I mean, I know they can build it, but they gotta build the dirt out. It'd be more than.
I know Pam has an investor that does this every day, so.
Appreciate the thought behind it.
Yeah, I didn't know about
We didn't know about that.
Yeah.
We thought, that's perfect.
I didn't know that either when I bought it, but.
You'd have to have flood insurance.
Yeah. All right, so
Back to it there.
the last question is, I was gonna recommend 45 to 60 days. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say 60, just.
I would recommend 60, especially if the community steps in, give us some more time, give them, all of us, more time to help out.
I'm agreeable with the 60 days as long as he's working with the city.
I'm okay with 60 days, but if there's an honest effort being made and the 60-day deadline can't be matched, I'll be happy to entertain allowing some more time if needed. Once we get a schedule or whatever it is.
All right. So, Mr. White, we're gonna set it for 60 days, okay? Really and truly moving forward from this day, communication with the city is important, okay? We can't get to 60 days and then find out, well, we're gonna do this or that. Just best you can. There's people around to help you do it. Let's see if we can get this thing done for you, but we'll give it 60 days. If we're headed to a plan and we just can't get it done in 60, as long as the communication's been good, I have no problem extending things like that, as long as the communication's there. Okay?
Yeah.
And then I know, hey, Carla, when you're working on this, I know last meeting, Catherine that was here for chief said that he had like a group of people he thought would help. So please reach out for those things too.
Absolutely.
And we'll put this all over social media.
Carla, talk to me later too, because I talked to 2 groups that said that they would help us.
Right, and I think there's 3 or 4 that we know of right now that can help, and also we've got a local guy, Vince, he owns Rolling in the Dirt, lives here in Pleasant Hill, and he's gonna try to work with his son as well, on dirt work.
All right, Mr. White, we're gonna try to get this worked out for you, okay? I appreciate you coming and talking to us, okay? So many people don't. They just throw up their hands and they don't come to the meeting, okay?
Well, I did that for the first two.
Now you make yourself a person to everybody, and it makes a big difference, okay? All right, so I need a motion to approve the findings of facts, conclusions of law and order with a 60 days from issuance of the order.
I'll make a motion for the findings of facts, conclusion of law and order with the 60-day conclusion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Osborne,
Yes.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilwoman Newberry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Emo.
Yes.
All right. Back where I was here just a right, the next item is a public hearing regarding the petition for establishment of the Pleasant Hill Marketplace Community Improvement District and consideration of a Chapter 100 plan, the proposed district, which is generally located north of 163rd and east of Missouri Highway 7. So I need a motion. Do you have a way you want us to put these up?
Why don't we go ahead and open both public hearings, one for the CID petition and one for the Chapter 100 plan.
Okay.
We'll have more information than either one necessarily needed, but more is better than too little.
So I need a motion to open two public hearings, one for the Pleasant Hill Marketplace Community Improvement District. And one for consideration of the Chapter 100 plan.
I'll make a motion now that there's two items.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to open the two public hearings. Roll call, please.
Councilman Osborne?
Here.
Councilman Nino?
Yes.
Councilman Newberry?
Yes.
Councilman Eagle?
Yes.
All right, we are in a public hearing.
I'll need just a minute or two to get this all set up.
That's fine.
Is the microphone necessary to putting it out to the public, or is it just for in here?
No, it's necessary for access so people can hear what's.
Okay, thank you. Like to talk really loud, I just want to make sure.
So I hear this is gonna take an hour?
We have a lot of information to cover this evening.
Is that because it's a billable hour?
Pardon me?
Is that because it's a billable hour?
We have certain legal requirements to meet. Okay. Okay, Mayor, members of the council, thank you for opening the public hearing. Good evening. For the benefit of those here this evening who do not know who I am, my name is Joe Lauber. Our firm serves generally as the city attorney for the city of Pleasant Hill, but this evening I'm here in an additional capacity as the city's special counsel for economic development matters. Tonight you'll be hearing a formal presentation of the application for a community improvement district, Chapter 100, and sales tax sharing incentives for the development of a new Cosentino's Price Chopper grocery store to replace the existing store in Pleasant Hill. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone for working together to allow us to get to this point this evening. Many hours have been spent by city staff and consultants, the applicants, and the city's elected officials and officials for other taxing jurisdictions to get to this evening's presentation. You all have received a lot of detailed information in your meeting packets regarding the proposed comprehensive development proposal, which included a staff report summarizing the proposal, copies of a CID petition and a Chapter 100 plan, and a summary of the requested sales tax sharing incentives. Also included were copies of a but-for determination report and a fiscal impact report prepared by Baker Tilly, the city's financial advisor for this project. We hope that the staff and consultants report was good guidance for understanding all of this information better. For my presentation this evening and for your benefit and the benefit of the members of the public in attendance, I'm going to take a few moments to provide a big picture overview of the development and the components of the incentives request. We'll also go over the documents that are required to create the CID and Chapter 100 incentives. Once I've completed my presentation, the applicant's representatives will provide some additional information about the development and their request. When that is completed, we will ask members of the public who would like to provide their thoughts on the proposal to speak. At that point, you will then close the public hearings. I'll work with you to get as we get to those steps. Okay, before I begin the summary of the proposed development and incentives packet, one of the first things I want to state is that everyone needs to get into the mind frame that no one knows exactly what the future will, how the future will unfold. The numbers that are submitted by an applicant and reviewed by the city staff and consultants presented to you this evening are estimates and projections. These are things that are looking to go out for honestly decades, and some as 20 years for much of this request. And so it is difficult to know today what those will be. However, that is why the city has engaged its own legal counsel and its financial advisors to help identify and vet the information that the applicant has presented. When a developer approaches the city to request incentives, we work to determine whether those numbers are justifiable and further to determine whether they truly need incentives, and if so, how much. The but-for determination report that was completed by Baker Tilly, and it was again in your packet, is the city's financial consultant's review of the applicant's proposal that was submitted this spring. You may recall that we brought a term sheet to you in May that the council approved, and that term sheet forms the foundation for this presentation and the public hearings this evening. So we'll get into the basic summary of the development request that is before you, the incentives request for the development. First, I'll point out simply that the name of the development will be the Pleasant Hill Marketplace. The proposed developer, who is the applicant here this evening, is Cadence Commercial Real Estate, LLC. The redevelopment area is approximately 20 acres in size, and the redevelopment project itself will result in approximately 80,000 square feet of new retail development in the city. 60,000 square feet of that would be this new Cosentino's Price Chopper grocery store. In a moment, I'll show you an overview of where this is located and so forth. So we'll go through that. Okay. The total project costs that are proposed by the applicant are about $25.8 million, and that's money that will be paid up front. We'll see on the final slide that I'll show you. There will be private project improvements to be completed by the applicant and others that will be about $16.5 million, or 64% of the total cost of the development. The developer is asking for reimbursement from the public in the form of these incentives this evening for approximately $9.3 million, or about 36% of the total project cost. The incentives request has three components. The first component is a community improvement, those three components are a community improvement district, or CID, the city shared sales tax reimbursement, and Chapter 100 incentives. With respect to the CID, the applicant has agreed to a hard cap of $7.9 million of incentives between the applicant has agreed to a hard cap of $7.9 million in incentives between the CID and the shared sales tax components. The projected completion date for the project would be December 2026, of course, subject to excusable delays, the normal things that you would think of. The development project property, as you see here, this is Missouri 7 Highway and East 163rd Street. So this development would be located at the northeast corner of that intersection. And you see the dark square here at the corner. This is the 20-acre site that the developer is purchasing for this project in that area there. That square that you see there is also exactly the same as the CID boundaries that's subject to the petition that you have before you this evening. Here is a proposed site plan. Again, the applicant will go into additional details about their project, but just for the purposes of putting this all together for the mayor and council this evening, The proposed project, as you see here, on the 20-acre site that we saw on the last slide, we have a grocery store, and we have an additional 5 pad sites that they are proposing to build that would have other types of retail, maybe restaurant type uses on that. And again, they'll talk a little more in detail about that. So getting down to the proposed financing. So the financing method, we talk about how is this project going to come up out of the ground. And so what we call this is a pay-as-you-go type development. And what that means is the developer upfronts all of the initial costs. So that $25.8 million, the developer or others, the people that might buy the pad sites from them and build whatever establishment they're going to build on their pad sites, they upfront the money. And they do that through their own private equity, maybe private debt, or some combination thereof. What the developer is asking for, though, is, again, the incentives package to make all this happen. And so that breaks down to, as I mentioned, it's a CID, sales and use tax, of 1%. And a Chapter 100 on the grocery store portion of the property only, and a city sales tax sharing. So I'll do a little more detail on those. If the CID petition that you'll hear about in a moment is proposed, the CID will be authorized to take steps to impose a 1% sales and use tax just on that 20-acre parcel that we saw. The CID would be in place for up to 27 years as permitted by state statutes. The CID revenues can only be spent within the boundaries of the district, which again will be that 20-acre site in the dark black square that we saw. The total CID incentive is projected to be approximately $6.0 million on a net present value basis. The Chapter 100 incentives are available to commercial, warehousing, and industrial projects and are known by the number of the chapter of the Missouri Revised Statutes where that authority is provided. So when we say Chapter 100, we're talking about Chapter 100 Missouri Revised Statutes. These incentives are authorized through a city council's approval of a Chapter 100 plan. The one subject to the public hearing this evening is entitled The Plan for Industrial Development Project and Cost Benefit Analysis for the Pleasant Hill Marketplace Project. Chapter 100 projects, or Chapter 100 incentives, have 3 basic components. The first is that the city's Industrial Development Authority will issue industrial development revenue bonds to finance the project. These bonds commonly have a lower interest rate due to their municipal bond structure. They're not sold, however, on the public marketplace like you would see with one of your GO bonds that you put to a vote. Instead, these are commonly purchased by the company that requests them or that company's bank. Property financed through these bonds is actually owned by the city while the bonds are outstanding. The property owned by the city can be all or any combination of land, the improvements like the buildings and structures on the building, or the personal property that is inside. The city then leases that property back to the company, and the rent is equal to, or is set at, the annual debt service that it takes to retire the bonds. All of this is set up by a statutory scheme, structure that is put together in Chapter 100. Since the city owns the project, the city's sales tax exemption for the purchase of construction materials and personal property tax applies. That's the second component of the benefit of Chapter 100. So the first, again, is lower interest or lower public financing. The second is the sales tax exemption when they go to buy construction materials. Now, since these materials are commonly purchased outside the city, there's minimal impact on the city's revenues or even some of the other local taxing jurisdictions in the circumstances. Typically things that are probably being bought in Kansas City and so forth, or maybe elsewhere, and then brought in. But even though that's the case, there is a benefit to the company to doing the Chapter 100. And the third component of Chapter 100 incentives is that additionally, due to the city's ownership of the property that is being financed, the property during that time is tax exempt, right? City-owned property is tax exempt, which operates like a tax abatement to the company. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, property owned by the city can be all or any combination of the land, the improvements, the buildings, or the personal property located within the site. Since property tax exemption results in 100% tax abatement for the company, many times a city will require the company to make a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot to balance out the incentive. When we talk about the Chapter 100 plan, we will talk about a pilot for this proposed project. While it is a little more difficult to calculate the expected value of the sales tax exemption certificate, the industrial revenue bond financing, and the net abatement via property tax exemption and pilot netted out by the pilot payments is about $1.3 million on a net present value basis. So again, as I mentioned before, $25.8 million project. I'm actually going to bump back so I don't misquote. So we have a $25.8 million project here, $16.5 million by the applicant or others, and they're looking for about $9.3 in the total package that I described. So now that I have covered just the overall, the general picture of how the incentives proposal will come together, I want to talk specifically then to the two documents that are the subject of these two public hearings that are running simultaneously this evening, and that those are the CID petition and the Chapter 100 plan. So first, the CID petition. Included in your council packet for tonight's meeting is a copy of the petition to establish the Pleasant Hill Marketplace Community Improvement District. Our firm reviewed the petition to verify that it meets the requirements of Section 67.1421 of Missouri Revised Statutes, and we worked with the city clerk to provide her certification that the petition is in substantial compliance with that statute. Briefly, I will list the components of the petition. First, it must be signed by more than 50% of the property owners by head count and by assessed valuation. There is one owner of this property, and they signed it for the property. The name of the district has to be stated. The name of this district will be the Pleasant Hill Marketplace Community Improvement District. In the petition, you have to state what type of CID you want to form. This will be a political subdivision CID. The other option is a nonprofit. Political subdivisions CIDs are most common in economic development because typically the applicant is looking for a CID sales tax, which cannot be imposed by a non-governmental body. So this CID, when it is created, will be like its own little mini city, if you will, and its constitution is this petition that is before you this evening. The CID will be governed by a 5-member board of directors, and 1 member by the petition and by statute must be an elected or appointed official of the city of Pleasant Hill. So the city will have some input on the decision-making by the CID board. The initial directors and their staggered terms are provided in the petition. According to the petition, the CID would be authorized to levy a 1% sales and use tax on retail sales within the district's boundaries. The city, as a political subdivision, is the only way it can be a taxing entity. It also, the CID, as a political subdivision, has to, and that's the only way that it can impose the sales tax. It is also subject to the Hancock Amendment, which you all may be familiar with. We cannot create new taxes as a city or increase taxes beyond what they were in November of 1980 without first putting it to a vote, and that is true for CIDs. In CIDs, commonly, there are not residents who reside within the district itself. In that circumstance, the statute provides that it's the property owners who will then vote to determine whether a CID sales tax would be approved or not. And that's the process that they are proposing to follow. And that's what the statute requires. The CID would last for up to 27 years, which is the maximum allowable term for CIDs. When I started practicing law 20 plus years ago, they used to be perpetual. The state statutes have now limited them to 27 years, and that is what is being sought here. There will be a blight study presented, and a blight determination will be sought. If the council is okay with everything that's being presented with them tonight, that will be coming forward, at a later meeting when all of the decision when the ordinances and the agreements will be approved for this. Attached to the CID petition is a 5-year plan, which is required by statute. It lays out the district's purposes, which are to provide funding for costs of projects and improvements, to pay for its formation, and to provide operating and maintenance costs. Revenues in the first 5 years are estimated at $313,000 to $404,880 per year, and the expenses will be the same as what that revenue is, designed to offset the cost of improvements and services of about $5.7 million, operating costs of about $2,500 per year, and costs of formation that are expected to be $30,000. That is my conclusion of the summary of the CID petition. With that, I will say that based upon our review of the CID petition and its position as a component of the overall incentives application requested by the applicant, and subject to the applicant's presentation and public comments in this public hearing later this evening, we believe that the City Council will have the information necessary to allow it to direct city staff and consultants to bring forward all the necessary ordinances and agreements to approve the petition to establish the Pleasant Hill Marketplace CID at the Council's next regularly scheduled meeting on July 22nd. That is the presentation of the CID. I will now talk about the Chapter 100, and then we'll cover the sales tax reimbursement after that. So, moving now to the summary of the Chapter 100 plan. Also included in the Council's packet for tonight's meeting is a copy of the plan for an industrial development project and cost-benefit analysis for the Pleasant Hill Marketplace project, which I will refer to as the plan or the Chapter 100 plan. As I did for the CID petition, I will also summarize the contents of the Chapter 100 plan. The plan applies to only the grocery store portion of the full development area. It consists of approximately 7.27 acres of the 20-acre site. The plan's project consists of the design, development, and construction of an approximately 60,000 square foot grocery store and associated parking, utilities, and other infrastructure improvements. I'm going to bump back to this summary here. The total estimated cost of the project is $17.5 million. Funding will be through the issuance of City of Pleasant Hill, Missouri Industrial Development Revenue Bonds that will be issued in one series. Any additional costs beyond that bond issuance will be the responsibility of the company to take care of. The city will hold title to the property and lease it to the company, and those rents will be equal to the principal and interest payments on the bonds, as we talked about in the summary. The company will have an option to purchase the project at any time during this process, and will have an obligation to purchase the project at the termination of the lease. The company or the company's private bank will purchase the bonds, which will have a term of 25 years. Bond proceeds will be used for project construction costs and for purchasing and installing the personal property that we talked about, which in this circumstance you can think of would be fixtures in the store shelves, refrigerators, freezers, and other things that you would think of as personal property in the typical grocery store. The most recent equalized assessed valuation of the property was $277 in 2022 and 2023. After development of the site, the estimated total equalized assessed valuation should be approximately $1.728 million. The company has proposed pilots in 3 tranches. So again, if you remember, because the city owns it, it's tax exempt. That feels like a tax abatement to the developer. As the applicant came in to propose this, they came forward offering pilots, which we would have asked them to do anyway, but we appreciate the fact that they did that. In the 3 tranches of the pilot payments that will be paid, and these get paid to all of the property taxing jurisdictions out there. So you're talking the school district, maybe the county, the city, whoever has a property tax will be paid these pilots. Prior to and during construction, the company will make pilots equal to the amount that would have been due on the unimproved land. So everybody stays status quo from a tax, revenue standpoint prior to and during the construction, okay? From and after the completion of the construction and for a period of 20 years, the company will pay fixed pilots that start at $12,607 and increase every other year thereafter by 3% until the 11th year. From and after the 11th year, after the completion of the construction, and until the end of the full 20-year abatement period, the company will pay fixed pilots starting at $36,537 and increasing every other year by 3%. Each of the affected taxing jurisdictions were provided notice of the plan and provided a cost-benefit analysis in compliance with section 100.050.2 subsection 3 of the Missouri Revised Statutes. The plan and a copy of that cost-benefit analysis were provided in your packets for this evening's meeting. So concluding the Chapter 100 plan portion of this presentation, based on our review of the Chapter 100 plan and its position as a component of the overall incentives application requested by the applicant, and subject to the applicant's presentation and public comments that you will hear in this public hearing this evening, we believe that the City Council will have all the information necessary to allow it to direct the city staff and consultants to bring forward all the necessary ordinances and agreements to approve the plan for an industrial development project and cost-benefit analysis for the Pleasant Hill Marketplace project at the City Council's next regularly scheduled meeting on July 22nd. Moving now to the third component of the incentives request. That is the city's shared sales tax reimbursement summary. Now, the final component of the economic development incentives this evening is one that does not have a specific statutory scheme or a set of documents for the council to consider or to approve apart from a comprehensive development agreement that would address all of the components that we've been talking about this evening. You may be familiar with tax increment financing, or TIF. For a very long time, TIF had been a tool for economic development in Missouri. However, after many changes to the law and its increased vitriol from other taxing jurisdictions, applicants and cities have found sales tax sharing agreements to be more politically palatable for both the city and the other taxing jurisdictions. One major difference between sales tax sharing agreements and TIF is that only the city's sales taxes are generated at the site are affected by the incentives, not all of the other taxing jurisdictions. Another major difference is that the revenue used for the incentives must serve a public purpose, and I will say that economic development has been found to serve a public purpose, or must be used for public improvements. Any city that has ever lost its grocery store typically finds itself in a precarious financial and even social situation. Here, the city of Pleasant Hill has an opportunity to make improvements to its existing grocery store on a new site that should guarantee its viability for years to come. As proposed, the applicant is requesting the city to share some of the revenues generated by the city's capital improvements sales taxes authorized by City Code Section 42-60 subsections A and B. The city has many other sales taxes. Those are not affected. It's just simply these capital improvement sales taxes. These taxes add up to 1.75% and can only be spent for a public purpose and on capital improvements, which is also different from how TIF works. If approved, the city staff and the applicant will work to ensure that these tax revenues are spent on qualifying project costs. As proposed, the applicant is requesting the city to share 50% of that 1.75 capital improvement sales tax that the project generates that are over and above gross sales of $21.0 million per year, designed essentially to work as a base like you would see with TIF revenues. As I said, other city sales taxes will remain unaffected by this request. The estimated total incentive from this component is expected to be about $2.2 million. If approved, the applicant has agreed to cap this incentive at the earliest of 20 years or when the incentive reaches $2.2 million. So again, finishing up the city sales tax portion of this presentation, I will say that based on our review of the proposed sales tax sharing proposal and its component as in the overall application request, we believe that the city council will have all the information necessary to allow it to direct city staff and consultants to bring forward all the necessary ordinances and agreements to approve a comprehensive development incentives agreement at the council's next regularly scheduled meeting on July 22nd. So Mayor, at this time, I would ask that we would ask the representatives from the applicant to present additional information about their proposal. And then once the applicant has completed their proposal, open the floor first to the CID petition, public comments, and then to the city's Chapter 100 plan presentation. If you have permission, hand it over.
That's fine.
We'll go first. So you guys had slides. We just had a couple of areas. Okay, kind of possibly but probably.
Mayor, City Council, Vince Kuzi on behalf of Polsinelli. Here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Cadence Commercial Real Estate, and one of the founders and principals, Trip Ross. As Mr. Lauber has already covered, he tackled all of the nitty-gritty details. He showed you the site plan. There's one minor tweak to that. The store, if you were paying attention, is actually going to be oriented to the west, so it'll face Missouri 7 Highway. As you saw on the site plan, there's projected to be 5 pad sites that we anticipate various retail, fast food restaurants that will end up purchasing and building on those. Other than that, we stand here tonight ready to answer any questions you may have. And as soon as Mr. Lauber is able to access my slides, we'll show you what the future project will hopefully look like. All right, so as briefly discussed, the overall site plan, we have a 20-acre site here on the northeast corner of 7 Highway and 163rd Street. The new grocery store would be right here. As mentioned, it would face the west instead of as currently shown. Anticipated to have 5 pad sites around the perimeter, again, various retail restaurant uses there. And we have a few renderings for what a new store would look like. These are existing stores, as we can tell, and they're an updated facade versus the store that's currently existing in town now. And with that, again, we stand available to answer any questions you all may have. Mayor?
I have a question for Mr. Lauber. So, RSMO section 144.014 reduces grocery prices, state of Missouri sales tax. Are you familiar with that? It reduces certain grocery items are reduced to 1.225% sales tax.
Okay.
Plus city sales tax on top of that. Fire districts right around 4%. Does the CID go on top of that as well?
The CID would be an additional 1% sales tax
Even on that one?
in that 20-acre area.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council? All right, I'll let public ask questions.
So for this portion, we would open the public, we would have public comments on just the CID petition portion, and then once those are finished, we'll close that, and then we'll finish the public comments on the chapter 100 portion of that, then we'll close that.
Okay, so questions on the CID?
I'm just gonna ask my questions because I don't know the difference. So, so if I'm to understand this correctly, our groceries are going to be 1% more expensive than what they are now?
If the CID sales tax is approved, which I would think that it would be, then there will be an additional sales tax on the groceries at that location.
Okay. Do the 5 pad sites also have that additional sales tax applied?
They would.
How many vacant commercial properties are in Pleasant Hill right now?
I mean, nobody's prepared to answer that question, sir.
The city should be.
So this is a public comment session, so you can speak your thoughts on it.
Well, my thoughts depend on the answer. So if the city doesn't know how many vacancies we have, and we want to add 5 more, I think that should be brought up when we're thinking about making our groceries more expensive.
They're not built yet, so.
Well, I get that.
That's why they're vacant.
But point stands, we don't know where we're at. The other question I would have would be, how many other grocery stores were consulted?
This isn't we went out and asked grocery stores. A company came to us with a proposal to build a grocery store, and this is the proposal.
Like I said, this is confusing. This is extremely
I know, and I'm just telling you, they present to us.
Is there an obligation in this to fill those vacancies by anybody? Or do they just sit vacant until they fill?
The developer is going to want to fill those vacancies so they can pay their bills.
Right, but there's no obligation.
There's no obligation that anybody buys property to do anything.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking. You know, my point being, obviously they're putting the Costantino's on it. I don't know if the developer has intentions to bring in certain stores. You know, do they have plans for these 5 spaces? Are they just going to sit vacant until somebody comes along and says, hey, that looks good? I don't know what the plan is here.
Those are probably discussions that they have internally that we're not privy to, but none of their developments just sit empty.
Okay.
They're in this to make money.
Well, I'm sure. Perhaps I can shed a little light on this issue. So I've done an economic development project all over the city, all over the state, I should say. I'm the economic development council for the city of Branson, for the city of Jefferson City, for the city of Sedalia, for Grandview, Grain Valley, all these places. Okay. What I can tell you is that when a developer comes forward and they're looking to make an investment in a community, they typically do ask for certain incentives, and that's what our role as legal counsel, and then the city's financial advisor, their role is to kind of vet that project when it comes in. I will tell you though that in almost every situation I have ever worked on, and I've done dozens upon dozens of these types of projects, a developer is not going to go out and have someone even be willing to sign a lease on a pad site on a project that hasn't been approved. So there's here, I don't think it's a true chicken or egg question. This comes first. If the city is willing to move forward and approve an incentives package, then the developer has the ability to go out and market that. And based on the presentation that was given this evening, this developer is saying they're going to spend, $25.8 million. And if they can't fill their site they're not going to get that money because this is what you call pay as you go. The only way they get repaid is that these stores get up and running and they succeed and they generate the tax revenues that are available essentially to pay them back.
Okay, and so that goes to my next question then. They don't own the sites, the city owns the sites initially, right?
So the developer will buy the site, they will own it, okay? Then as a component of the proposed incentives, they will actually sell their property to the city, and this is just on the grocery store portion, right? They'll sell that to the city and the city will lease it back. I used to do economic development work for the city of Springfield, Missouri. They have a giant craft food manufacturing plant out there. Chapter 100 is used in that plant. You would never know it to drive by it, but the city of Springfield did a Chapter 100 and it owned a food production line inside that plant. When you walked up to the machine, it did not say property of the city of Springfield, it did not say Springfield city limits, it didn't say anything like that. It's just a component of how these incentives programs work.
I would like to thank you for that plant, by the way. I have won many, many drag races. I must have run. So I'm just trying to understand who owns what.
That's what we're here for.
It kind of bounces around as to who owns what.
Yeah.
And it sounded like the city would own everything, but then if it didn't fill, then the city would be on the hook for that. But I'm misunderstanding.
So if you remember in my presentation, what I said is that during the term of the bonds being outstanding, okay, the city will own the property. During the time that the bonds are outstanding, the developer at that point, they're no longer a developer, they're no longer an applicant, now they're a developer. The developer will have the option to buy the property at any point as we go through this. But at the end, they have an obligation to buy the property. They, as a part of the agreement and a part of everything working, is they have to sell, they have to buy back this project from the city. And they'll want to, obviously, because the city's not in the grocery business. The city won't be in the grocery business as a portion of this, I'll tell you that. Nobody walking up to the door would understand that there's a Chapter 100 going on, that the city owns it, because everything on the face of it will appear just like any other Cosentino's grocery store you walk up to.
Does any of this have any obligations to the existing store and what happens to it? Because I believe it's owned by the same company, not?
I don't have that information. I don't know if you guys have anything you can share about that piece of it.
Trip Ross, Kings Commercial Real Estate, 7939 Floyd, Overland Park, Kansas. Mr. Mayor, Council, glad to be here. I'll hit the existing building, but I want to get to a little bit of history because I think it'll answer a lot of other questions. The building's owned by Cosentino's, and our plan is to re-tenant it with a retail business. And my company does brokerage. If you were to look at our website, our projects are all 90+% occupied. They're not sitting at sites. We can only make money, and we're a for-profit business if we conduct the business of developing real estate. So to reference a gentleman that was here earlier, we sign a dotted line. We have banks that knock on the door if we're not selling those pad sites. So there's a substantial financial commitment that's made. It's not just, can we build a grocery store? We have to complete the project. So there's an obligation that's far deeper than what it appears on a PowerPoint. We certainly don't want to see another vacancy in Pleasant Hill, so getting that building backfilled is a top priority, and those conversations are already being had. It's a little challenging now to make any commitments to a new user when we have no idea when the grocer is going to vacate, if you want to move in their new building. The first threshold is tonight. If things go well tonight, then we can have those conversations and be in a position to make commitments. As for history, because I think it'll answer some of these other questions that may come up. We didn't just walk into town a couple months ago and say we want to build a project and we need incentives. This is the result of 4 or 5 years of study with this specific store. Mr. Lauber mentioned projections and analysis that's done. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars studying what opportunity may exist for a project and for this grocer. The existing store is not what this community deserves. It's small. It doesn't have the merchandising that you all probably expect of a modern grocery store. It's functionally obsolete in a lot of ways. We've looked at ways to expand the store. We've looked at closing the store down, tearing it down, and rebuilding it. All other efforts were exhausted to go pursue this ground-up project. And to your point about vacancies, we're fulfilling a 28-acre vacancy right now by buying this land. So the project, this is the end result of ruling out every other scenario that could have made sense for the future of this grocery store. The analysis that we did isn't just, could a store go from under 30,000 square feet to 60,000 square feet and still be sustainable? It was actually a study of the broader trade area where you all are really spending your money, and it's not in Pleasant Hill. Most of you are spending your money at the Todd George Price Chopper or stopping elsewhere depending on where your traffic patterns are. We're seeing substantial leakage away from Pleasant Hill in the grocery category and a lot of the other categories that we hope to fill within this project. So this isn't just about building a bigger grocery store and hoping it does better. This is about recapturing dollars that are leaving this community. So again, the end result of a lot of study.
Do your studies indicate how much of that leakage is due to cheaper tax rates at other stores and other locations?
No, it doesn't. And it's only looking at sales volumes of like-kind businesses in other communities and how they've trended. And the surrounding communities have seen an incline. Constantine's had a store in Braintree that sees a lot of your tax dollars go there. So it's not rocket science. They use their loyalty programs to track it, and it's leaving Pleasant Hill and has been for probably 6 or 7 years. There's just no way for us to meet that need with the existing store and its existing footprint. But I don't know if we can go back at all, but as a developer, we did a project very similar in scale, very similar in incentive package in Smithville a few years ago, where a Country Mart was purchased, undersized store, converted to a Price Chopper. They saw an uptick in sales, but the sales plateaued. They just could not meet the need from a merchandising perspective. They saw leakage. They saw people going to neighboring communities, going into Kansas City, Missouri. And when we built the store, not only were the pad sites sold out within the first year, but we had competing bids for every single one. So, again, projections, I'm never gonna, I have to sign the dotted line, but we never really know what the future's gonna bring. I have yet to see a project where we don't exceed our expectations from a revenue standpoint, from a occupancy standpoint, and from a merchandising standpoint within these grocery stores. Okay. One other point I want to make is, let's keep going. We are spending money off-site. There will be improvements made with MoDOT's cooperation to Highway 7 to make sure we can accommodate all this traffic. We want this to be a very safe project, especially with its orientation to the school. All that work is being designed right now. We are going to have easements we need to extend utilities. There's a lot that's still in motion that still needs to happen, but tonight's the tipping point.
While you've got the screen up, can you illustrate for us the corrected layout of the store with the 5 pads?
Yes, we start with conceptual site plans so we can get an idea of how utilities need to work and how dirt work needs to work to level a site. This was an initial plan just to figure out basically how we would call it a massing study, how we get everything to fit. Once we started to really dig in, we love the idea of facing the store south because you're facing that customer that's going to and from school, you're catering to that traffic pattern. The more we looked at it, the more we looked at the way the pads will be oriented, facing 7 Highway just made more sense. So the store is effectively going to turn clockwise, face 7. The pads this pad gets a little bit smaller. But again, none of this is set yet. This is purely conceptual. I will say that I don't see the store orientation changing. I think the store will face the highway.
So you're still going to have 3 pad sites backed up to 7 Highway?
I don't remember exactly what number. These are lines on a page.
Okay.
So we could have more pad sites. We could have fewer. It's going to be user driven. We're having internal discussions to the mayor's point about whether we build shops here. We wish we would have with the Smithville project. You learn something new with every project. If we were to build shops somewhere with the pads, we would need a larger pad to do it. It would be a 10 or 15,000 square foot multi-tenant building. So that would change the orientation of the rest. This will be a market-driven pad orientation. So, for instance, a coffee user that has a drive-through or a small fast food, they're only going to need 25 or 30,000 square feet of dirt. These pads are pretty large as they're drawn. So this could end up being broken up into a different orientation, again, outside of where that store is located.
May I ask a question?
Sure. There was a woman behind you too. Just,
Oh, I'm sorry. Carla Murray, 300 North Campbell Street, and you actually touched on the question I was going to ask earlier. But I knew that you had to have had a way to track through zip codes and all of that in order to make the decision that you wanted to build here bigger. My question is, do you know like how much business that we are losing? Do you know what percentage of, what do you think the growth is going to be? Are you looking at 10% growth because you have a better store here? Are you looking at 15? What is your plan to grow?
Multiple answers to that question. I think we do have studies that we paid for that articulate that they're not, the leakage is millions of dollars a year.
That's what I thought.
So it's a lot.
So they'll bring taxes back.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the goal is to regain market share and then increase it. This doesn't pencil for anybody if that's not the case, and frankly, that's how it's worked with every other project we've done like this. So I'm going to rely on history a little bit. But yeah, the market studies they look at a multitude of ways, but I don't know the exact double digits. I don't remember the percentages off the top of my head, but I'm looking at Shelby. Maybe she remembers.
No.
But it's sizable.
The mayor had asked earlier what the net public benefit will be, and that's for all taxing jurisdictions. Our initial calculation is over the course of this term, $20 million worth of net public benefit.
In addition to what we have now.
In addition, and we made sure everything was in addition to where we are.
Over what time period?
Benefit,
CID is 27 years? So,
I mentioned
between 20 and 27 years.
So less than $1 million a year.
More than we have now.
I mentioned the whole history of the various scenarios we looked at, so you understand the initiative here. The tangible benefit is you're going to have the store this community deserves and wants, not the store that's there now. We don't take that lightly. This is tens of millions of dollars being invested. It's not done on a whim. So that is something you will see day one. We would anticipate, assuming all goes well, that we're potentially breaking ground towards the end of this year, and then this time next year, the latter part of next year, there's a new store there.
Hey, John, you had a question earlier about the sales tax. With the CIDs, with the grocery stores around us, you're paying between 9.5% to 11% right now. Shopping in Lee Summit, Raymore, Belton, Blue Springs.
That is it.
With the CIDs they
yes.
have, yes.
Yeah, the Todd George Price Chopper is within a CID, so is Raintree.
And what would ours?
Raymore, Belton.
So is Harrisonville, Price Chopper, yeah, Raymore, Belton, not Lee Summit. A lot of Lee Summit, Blue Springs, Target areas there.
And what would ours be?
Most grocery stores you shop in are in a CID.
And what would ours be?
So we would be at 10.1%, which is
after the CID and all that stuff.
Yes,
okay.
Which is where they're at. I just want to answer because that was your question. So
I appreciate the conciseness of that.
Jessica Elliott, 217 North Campbell. So the CID is supposed to pay for utility improvements along that stretch of 7 as well?
It's utility extensions for the project because the current utilities can't support all these buildings.
Right, so I'm asking, are we going to be able, does that mean that the CID is going to be funding the sewer along that line to connect the sewer?
This is still in the works. I just gave Shelby a glance. We have to extend sanitary to get to this site. We don't know exactly how we're going to do that yet, but getting that extension across to the side of the street theoretically would create the ability for interconnection if housing were to grow or multifamily or something.
Right, that's why I'm asking, because I know there is future plans for development at that point
right.
along there, but the key to that is connecting the sewer. And if I didn't know if that was another incentive that we would have for generating that kind of income for our city.
I think maybe another question to that would be who's paying for all that?
We are. It's project cost.
Okay.
So that lady over there said we're going to get $20 million. I realize it's going to take several years, but where's that money going? Is it going to be for a project?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry,
So that $20 million is spread over multiple taxing jurisdictions. So all of that would be returned, whether it's through the Chapter 100 and kind of those kind of pilot payments that Joe had mentioned. It would go back to the school district, to the county, to the city. So that would just be new taxes for each of them to determine at that point, not taxes, because that would still be a pilot payment. The other one then would be on the sales tax that's collected. That would be additional, because the city, as Mr. Lauber mentioned earlier, the city is the only one who is able to make that sales tax reduction that goes into this project. So the fire district will still get their sales tax, and that would be newly captured sales tax for them. The county would continue to capture their sales tax. The city will continue to capture our sales tax on a few of our taxing. So we would get the benefit to the transportation fund, the park stormwater sales tax fund. Those are the two off the top of my head right now. And then we would still get 50% of the new sales tax that was collected. And so then it's just up for us on what we would collect additionally. That's up to council to determine how they want to allocate that on an annual basis. But what we would be collecting really kind of is set to certain types, already distinguish what they have to go towards.
Any other questions? All right, we kind of got everything all together. We can separate them.
Sorry, there is one point of clarification I can make, Mayor. One of the citizens was asking, can the CID pay for extension of various utilities? One thing we have to keep in mind is CIDs are only authorized to spend money within their limits, okay? Just like the city, really needs to spend its money within the city limits of Pleasant Hill, the CID has to spend its money within the limits of the CID, so it would be within that 20-acre square on that. But, as far as future development were to go, then, development should pay its way. That's something that we talk with every applicant that walks in, is that development pays its way. This applicant is doing that and then just seeking some reimbursement back, for what they will ultimately create.
So if I understand that correctly, the city will be funding extensions of sewer, water, et cetera, to this site. They will be doing their own on-site, which sounds a little different than what he just said, and he's shaking his head no, so I'm wondering.
It's a project cost, it's just not reimbursed.
They're extending it for their CID.
We have to pay for it.
Yes.
Okay, so they're paying the city back for it.
They're funding that.
To the mayor's point, we're paying for these two guys for time. I'm free, so I can keep talking all I want. It's a project cost. We have to pay for it. It's just not reimbursable as part of the CID because it's not within the district.
Okay, I think I understand that.
Fair enough?
The applicant has $25.8 million in total costs that are seeking reimbursement for 9.3. That the extensions that he's talking about fall outside of that 9.3. They won't be reimbursed for that portion of it, just what is within the CID, with CID revenues.
Go ahead, Pat.
And the 9.3 is through the CID?
No, so 9.3 is the overall estimated incentive, okay, and so that is broken up into the three components that we talked about. There's, I think, 2.2 of CID, there's 5.7, no, I don't have my, let me see if I can flip back to my notes here. CID is, so the 9.3 is,
My question's gonna be, the 9.3 is what you're gonna tell us the breakdown, but that does not include the additional 0.5% sales tax they'll receive for the term of the CID, the 27 years?
no, it's all included.
Okay.
Yep, it's all included. So there's a value of about $1.3 million in the Chapter 100. There is about 2.2 on the sales tax sharing and 6.0 on the CID portion.
Okay, so it'll be, the 0.5% is part of the 100, chapter 100.
I don't know where.
Are you talking about the 1% CID?
Yeah.
1%
They're
CID?
requesting half of the 1% back. The city will get half,
Okay.
they'll get the other.
I understand what you're asking now. Okay, so the city sales tax sharing agreement component, okay, that affects, again, only the city's capital improvement sales taxes, which are 1.75%. What they are asking for is once the revenues of the store exceed a certain amount, okay, any revenues that come in above that, they're asking for the city to give them 50% of those revenues on only that 1.75% total of capital improvement taxes. Okay, so essentially, by design, the revenues that the current store are throwing off are designed to be covered, because the city needs the revenues from the current store to help patch potholes and do the things that the city does. Make sure that the ground goes down and bad guys get locked up, right? So the city still needs those revenues, and this applicant has been very good to work with us as we've talked to them about these concerns. And we started talking with them, the big joke was I went over to Brown's and I bought my wife this giant blow mold Santa Claus, and it sat out in the parking lot while we had our first meeting before Christmas last year. That's how long we've been working on this, right? So while we were working on that, we were able to talk with them about what the concerns are to make sure that the city still has the ability to provide all the services to the city that are really based off of revenues that are generated from your existing grocery store. Find a way to create a better grocery store that's more viable. You wouldn't believe how many communities I work in that have lost their grocery store, and they've lost their soul when that has happened. It gives me chills to think about it. And so, when they came to us and told us they came to us to tell us about the leak. We've seen it. We know where the other stores are, and we know where people are driving to, right? But they confirmed it for us. And so this is an opportunity to take advantage of this developer's idea and put this in place before we ever find ourselves in that position in Pleasant Hill.
Go ahead, sir. Wayne Burke, I work for the school district, live at 401 Sugar Land. And excuse my ignorance, I came in late and should never be late. My understanding is the fire department, though, is still going to get their tax. They're exempt for that.
Yes.
Why was that?
Yeah, so they have a really great lobby down in Jefferson City. Fire districts, ambulance stations all have a state statute that says that when these types of projects come through, and they're for Chapter 100, they're for TIF, for Chapter 353 type of developments, there's language written in the statute that says that they're guaranteed to get 50% of the revenues off the project, and they're allowed to get up to 100% of the revenues for the project. So we sat down with Chief Lopez, talked with him about it, but unfortunately the fire district's board in this circumstance said that they didn't want to participate, so they will be getting their 100% of the revenues on that, but they're entitled to get that through state statutes. So it's just something that we have to work through.
The school district will be at 50%, is that my understanding?
You will be paid a pilot payment on the property taxes, and that property tax has basically 3 tranches. Okay, in the first tranche, while the city owns the property, but prior to construction and while construction is ongoing, the applicant, at that point they will be the developer, they will pay a payment in lieu of taxes to the school district that would be equal to whatever revenue you would have made off that property otherwise. Okay, once the project is completed, they will begin paying what's called a fixed pilot payment, and The fixed pilot payment starts at $12,607 per year, I guess, per year. And it escalates every other year, just like taxes do with reassessments. It will escalate every other year thereafter by 3% up until the 11th year. From and after the 11th year after completion of construction, then the fixed pilot payments will jump up to $36,537 per year and will increase every other year by 3% until the 20-year period is over.
Any other questions? All right, you ready to close?
So at this point, I believe we're still at the point where we were going to, did we close? We didn't close the CID.
We just did them all together.
So we just did them all together. Okay. You might just ask if there are any further questions about the Chapter 100 and we just close them together. Because that was a Chapter 100 question.
Are there any other questions about the Chapter 100?
Is all this going to be on the city website where we can go home and review it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What?
It's already.
Yeah, there's a packet. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, I need a motion to close the CID and the Chapter 100 public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the CID and Chapter 100.
I second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Augsburg?
Yes.
Councilwoman Niner?
Yes.
Councilwoman Newberry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Eno?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, I believe the only action we have tonight is whether you guys want to authorize the city staff to write the ordinances for the next meeting concerning the CID and the Chapter 100. So I just need a motion to authorize the city staff to write those ordinances.
Actually, if you want me to, I can state the motion and then someone can say so moved if you'd like, Mayor.
No, I can let them do it.
All right.
I like his idea better.
Go ahead. They'd like you to do it.
Mayor, it would be appropriate at this time to call for a motion to direct the city staff and consultants to bring forward all necessary ordinances and agreements to approve the CID petition and blight finding, the Chapter 100 plan, and a comprehensive development incentives agreement at the City Council's next regularly scheduled meeting on July 22nd, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Augsburg?
Yes.
Councilwoman Niner?
Yes.
Councilwoman Newberry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Eno?
Yes.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That was a lot. Answered a lot. All right. Moving on to staff reports. Tony.
Tomorrow we'll be starting the striping on Cedar and all the parking spaces behind City Hall. And then on Wednesday, they will be starting the front side of on Paul Street and then the west side of Cedar, or I'm sorry, the west side of City Hall. Working with Allstate on our water wastewater plans, getting those things tied together, getting some priority lists put together for them so they can get started on our 5-year plan. I just want to make a comment. I think she might have left, but the issue on Pine Street with the sidewalk and all that has been in my plans. She probably talked to me, and I probably lied to her about the timing we could get there. So that's one thing this job does, is make me a liar. So we do have a plan there to put a curb in, fill that, put a new sidewalk in. We just have not gotten there yet. So.
Can we ask him a question?
Sure. No, go ahead.
How many vacancies do you still have? Because that might be why he hasn't got to it.
Yeah, that, part of it. We still have 3 vacancies in the department. I did start doing some review on the applicants and several applications. So I'm starting to review those this week and hoping to pull some interviews here shortly.
All right. Go ahead.
We're prepared, Brett. For next week.
That's all there is.
So I'm also working on fair stuff the last couple of weeks, I'm not gonna lie.
I did take some vacation time, so don't be mad, but, anyway, I did approve the preliminary subdivision or preliminary, replat of the Placental Marketplace today, so I'm just awaiting that final replat submission there. Not much else going on development wise, it's kind of a little bit slow right now. It'll come.
Nikki?
So we actually got our RFQ posted, it would have been a little over a week ago, that in part with the contract you all approved with Navigate Building Solutions. We met with them, they reviewed the RFQ that we had put together, it is out. We actually have our first pre-submittal conference tomorrow, so kind of like a contractors conference tomorrow. Regarding this, for any contractors that are potentially interested in bidding, not bidding, but submitting qualifications for our design build project. So we will have that tomorrow. So we're really obviously ramping up on our project, what we're obviously referring to as P1, which is the park project. So in addition to that, obviously lots of fair stuff going on. It's going to be, honestly, we're watching the weather. It looks actually it's going to be a really good week with only, really one day that's going to be super hot. So if you haven't already heard, radio ads are out there promoting the fair. They've started, so there's no turning back now. And it's going to be a good week. We have our volunteer kind of appreciation or fair kickoff this coming Thursday. And final kind of work night as we get the fairgrounds prepared and ready for everyone to come down and enjoy. Oh yeah, there is, sorry, the horse show is on Sunday, so kind of ahead, almost like a pre-fair event. But in conjunction with that, we also do our opening ceremonies. So they will be Sunday afternoon.
3:45.
Yeah, 3:45 is when we'll do the opening ceremonies down at the fairgrounds. So anybody, obviously, come out, enjoy the horse show. We'll have concessions open, a concession trailer open that afternoon as well.
Go ahead.
Just like I said, the auditors will be here next week as well for field work.
They pretty much did everything, helping her get stuff ready for the audit, reviewing applicants for Tony's positions, just trying to find my desk if you've seen City Hall, it's a mess right now, so.
Yeah.
Can I go?
Just go.
Okay. So one of the things I was going to mention is that temporarily we are in this building right now because we have started City Hall renovations in the council chamber, really so that we can accommodate more public space and better audio visual. So it is being renovated and very messy right now. That's what Jody's referencing. The other one, most of the stuff you've already heard from me. The other one was during that conversation with Navigate Building Solutions, we did start the conversation on P2, which is going to be the law enforcement facilities, and kind of charting forward what the best path will be and what construction design method we will utilize. So expect more on that in the future. I have a couple emails from them on some ideas. So.
Chief?
Save the best for last. I don't have a whole lot. We're just gearing up for the fair. Working with the sheriff's office and all the other surrounding agencies and working on our ops order and things like that. So fair's kind of capturing most of our time right now.
You kind of set that up bad. Kylie, I skipped you. You're last. What do you got?
That's for last.
Can I go again?
Well, Tommy also forgot that today we took pictures of all of PD. So those are going to be coming out soon, and we're going to do some employee spotlights internally and externally because he actually has some awesome new recruits to show off. I have also been fair work like everyone else says, but they forgot to mention we're only 8 days away from it. So a lot of exciting social media coming up. We also finished up the June newsletter recently, and a copy was in all of utility bills. So everyone got that, and I think that's all I have.
All right. Anything from council?
No.
All right, then I need a motion to go into closed session, RSA 021, 1 for legal actions, litigation, attorney-client, 2 for real estate, 3 for personnel matters.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session for RSMO 610-021, 1 for legal action, litigation, and attorney-client communication, 2 for real estate, and 3 for personnel matters.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Augsburg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilman Newberry,
Yes.
Councilman Emo.
Yes.